fire and said, "I am able." And I want you to know that she graduated #1 in her class at San Francisco State College. Sister Elsie Maddox was a maid all of her life. She never graduated from high school. She got an A grade in statistics. She now has a master's degree because she refused to make excuses. People from Vietnam came to America. They couldn't speak the language. The black Americans laughed at them. Look at these Vietnam with their funny faces, and they can't even speak the language. They must be crazy. And they were selling popsicles in the park and selling sandwiches in the park. The black Americans said, "We're not going to do it. That's degrading." Now the Vietnamese are at the tops of the classes. And there are more black Americans in the penitentiary than there are in the university in America. Who exploited whom? The Vietnamese said, "Let us come and analyze the system. Let us find out where our advantage is and where our disadvantage is. Let's forget the crutches and the self-pity, and let's get together and work." That's what our foreparents did. That's why Timbuktu existed. That's why Shaka existed. Read his history. What was the discipline that he employed upon his warriors? What was the training program that he required of his warriors? Discipline, sacrifice, based upon a plan of action. I'm saying with all the problems that exist in South Africa, the Asian community came here, and what they did is remarkable. Let's forget the nonsense. These people could have made 1,000 different excuses and given up and gone back to Pakistan or gone back to India and said, "We tried our best, but the racism is too great." They made a decision that they were going to stay. Whatever it took. Yes, they accepted abuse. Yes, they abided their time. Yes, they looked for openings in the university. And they have developed a niche in the country. I'm saying to my black African brothers, we have the numbers. We are the majority. But unless we are prepared to pay the price, we will become like many African countries on this continent. There's a price to be paid for leadership. We need rallies right now all over South Africa. We need to bring our youth into the stadiums and preach education. There will be enough political speeches. Who will inspire our youth to learn? Who will give the concrete? All of our brothers that dropped out for the boycotts today are functionally illiterate. Who is going to provide for them? The politicians? The speeches? The language? It will not. We are talking about the values of our ancestors. We are not weak people. We are not losers. We are not people who give up. If we were, we would have never made it to America. We were sold as slaves from this continent. Don't tell me about exploitation. From this continent. But we did not give up. We invented the traffic light. We invented the gas mask. We invented over 300 uses for the sweet potato and the peanut. We designed Washington, D.C. We performed the first medical heart operation in America. Dr. Daniel Hale Williams in 1893. We did not let slavery rob us of our dignity. and we will never be slaves again. Because we are prepared to work and to fight. Work and to study and to share with our people and to build our people. And that's why I'm here. I can give a political speech, but it will create nothing. When I'm finished, people may feel good, they will still have the same unemployment. We need a value return to our ancestors. The people of Timbuktu that devised the way to sail from West Africa to Mexico before Columbus was ever thought of. We did that. What are we doing today? Marcus Garvey owned the shipping line in 1920. What are we doing today? The brother recognized the importance of his heritage, and he said, I cannot help my people unless I become a model. And he sacrificed his life. Malcolm X sacrificed his life. They wanted to show our people here, we can do it, but it is work and no excuses. We have the ability from Allah. But if we devise only political jargon, nice phrases and isms here and isms there, this is not the world of reality. We need 2 million jobs. If you have a bloodbath in this country, no one will invest in this country, and we will go to the Stone Age. This country cannot make it without outside foreign investment. There is no way. And no one's going to invest if they don't see stability, and neither would you. If you see a group of people fighting on the corner, you're not going to go and say, well, let me give you some money, brothers, and see how you can use this money to bring back return. You say, let me get as far away from that as I can. This is human life. It has nothing to do with race. It has to do with performance. So we are saying, as Africans, we must get beyond the rhetoric. The Christian told us, wait till we die and go to heaven. After we go to heaven, God will take care of us. The communist said, we're going to use a dialectic materialism to evade metaphysics and utilize science to devise our world. And Khrushchev now is saying that's nonsense. That's nice to let people talk about. They're nice slogans. Khrushchev says we've been exploited. Karl Marx said we've been exploited. But you know what Karl Marx said in his diary? He said, Lascelles is an oblong, kinky-headed nigger. He wrote it in German until he got to the word nigger. He wrote that in English so his friend, Mr. Engels, would know he meant nigger. But we are still running around saying, yes, the Marxist solution. What did the man think of us? Ask the African students who went to Moscow how they were treated. We cannot look for dreams. There is no ism in this world that will make this country a model for all of Africa. It is planning and thinking and working and sacrifice just what our ancestors did. Show me any country in the world that was able to avoid that process. Show me any country you like that's not exploited so we can imitate that country. Life is continual exploitation. We just want to make sure that it is not unreasonable and unjust. But making a sacrifice doesn't mean it's unjust. But we should have an input in the decision making. But don't develop a nation of politicians. We need a nation of workers and thinkers and planners. Most of our workers. Yes, sir.
Just a comment. What you say actually, the definition of an exploitation is very superficial. Because now...
Could you speak louder, sir? What hear you?
Actually, the definition of exploitation from your perspective is very superficial. Because you understand that the system in which we are living under here is very exploiting our people at large.
What do you mean mean by exploitation?
Actually, if now you have to take into consideration, like for instance, you say that now it's only a mutual relationship whereby people just come and ask work. And actually, if you look at the system that exploits, it's a system that exploits. It's a system that makes us to be the way.
Let me ask you this. Let me just ask you this. What system in the world do you like? What system would you like to see in this country, so I can get an idea, instead of us just defining exploitation, because we could go on forever. Give me some system that you have seen anywhere that you would like to be employed here, so I get a better feel for what you see as the best economic, political, social arrangement for the betterment of the people of this country, because both of us are committed to that.
If I have to respond to that, actually, if you look at the system, here in this country is a capitalist system. As you say, other people say that now, capitalism would work, there isn't.
But can I just ask you to give me, let's forget this system. Give me one you like. You don't like this one. Give me one you like.
Fine. Actually, what I'm saying that now in the nutshell is that now, if you look at all this, right, actually Islam can able to work, right? Islam can...
Brother, could you just give me one system that you like?
The system that I like is the system of socialism.
Where? Where?
Socialism.
Yeah, which place can I go and see the system that you like?
Actually, if you look at, I cannot give you a model of the country where the system is working. Because if you look at those countries who claim to be socialist, we find only the revisionists in those countries. You look at Russia, but Gorbachev, which is moving towards capitalism, which is a revisionist.
Why are they making the change?
It's because of bourgeois tendencies. It's
because the socialism didn't work.
No, they're working on their interests.
Czechoslovakia, Hungary says no. Poland says no. Russia says no. You can't ignore history. They tried their best and they didn't work. Show me one place that worked.
In China, it worked during Mao Zedong.
China says today they're going to put in a stock market. Show me how you can have a stock market under socialism.
But now, if now we speak about China now under Deng Xiaoping and his company, those are nothing else than revisionists who claim to be socialist.
Brother, if everyone has changed, what you have to do is ask. If only half changed, you can say, well, those half were misled. If a third changed, you can say, those third were misled. They tried their best, but they became corrupt. But if 100% change, you have to honestly, in the name of your people, you have to find out and explore, is what you would like to see possible? If it's not possible, you cannot give people dreams. All I'm saying, if you find the system, and let's study it and analyze, if it works, I'll join you. But if I can show a system that works and the people approve, will you join me? Either way, we must work. Yes.
Now, if you look at most of the writings that have been published,
I can't hear you.
If now you look at most of the people who compare Islam and socialism, right? If you look at the facets of Islam and the facets of socialism, they can actually, they are tantamount. And I think under a socialist country, so Islam can be propagated because Islam is just the same. It just can work under that system. Very simple. Under a capitalist system, it cannot work because it's exploited.
But you're raising a different question. You're saying that Islam and socialism are compatible. This is not the issue. The issue is, if no one has been ever able to make socialism work after all of these years, why waste your time? You have to, with the limited time you have to think not just about dreams. The people cannot eat dreams. They're not going to eat socialism. The people are waiting desperately for a plan and some model to help them move. So we are saying we owe it to the people to go throughout the world and examine all the systems we can, and then look at those that seem to be the best, tell the people, and let the people decide. And if the people decide that there is a system that they prefer, don't get mad at them and call them names. Don't do what Stalin did and kill almost 20 million people because they didn't want it. Don't do what Mao Tse-tung did. Some say he may have killed 50 million people because the people said, we don't want this. Be honest enough after you have done all the research and you have presented all of the data, let the people decide. Whichever way. If they say, I like this brother, I want that system, I will join you. I will not be recalcitrant. I will not say, no, if you don't use my system, I'm not going to do anything but fight. What I'm promising you is that we both get a chance to explain our system to the people. We both get a chance to show the people where the systems have been tried. And then we let the people decide, and whatever they decide, let's join our hands together as brothers and work to implement the desires of the people. Is that fair? Alhamdulillah. Any other questions? Yes, sir. Walaikum salam.
I asked my question as a student and not as a critic. The thing is that for the past 1400 years, we have been propagating Islam and the system of Islam. Now, can you tell me why we don't have an ideal system yet in any country or any part of the world?
I think this is a very good question, and I congratulate for this question, because it is not fair for me to ask for a perfect model of socialism if I cannot find a perfect model of Islam. Because the people are saying to me and to you, where is your model? And I cannot say to them, the Japanese are getting ready to consider adopting Islam as their system, and they would not do that if they did not think that Islam was the best. That's encouraging, but that's not good enough. Because the Japanese are not where they are today because they followed intentionally an Islamic model. The best and most effective operation of Islam occurred during the operation in the life of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. And he gave us a model and a plan. And for a few hundred years, that plan was implemented and became very successful. Let me share with you just a few books. There is a book that I strongly urge for all of you called Christianity, Islam, and the Negro Race. This book was written by Edward Blyden, who was born in the Caribbean, in the West Indies. And at a very early age, he proved to be a child prodigy. He seemed to learn things very quickly without any difficulty. The Christian missionaries sent him to the United States to give him a chance to really develop his mind. When the white Christian missionaries saw this black face, they said, "We are sorry. There is no way that we can permit you to sit in a classroom with whites. You must leave." Rather than send him back to the Virgin Islands and be embarrassed, Mr. Edward Blyden was sent to Liberia, where he did get his long-awaited education. And the predictions regarding his precocious powers proved to be correct. And he learned Latin, he learned Greek, he learned French, and he learned Arabic. He traveled to the Middle East speaking Arabic and scolding the Arabs for using too many colloquialisms in the language. He said, "You have a beautiful language, why have you corrupted it?" He became the Secretary of State in Liberia. I'm speaking now of the period of 1890. His responsibility was to travel throughout West Africa and look for what we are talking about tonight, to look for a perfect model that he could implement in Liberia, in Africa, for his people. He said that through the years, he was able to determine a Christian village from a Muslim village, and this man, at the time he wrote the book, Islam, Christianity, and the Negro Race, was a Christian. He said if the village was illiterate, it was a Christian village. If the village could read, it was a Muslim village. If the village was plagued with unemployment and laziness and no desire for economic progress, waiting for someone to do something for them, that was a Christian village. If the people were energetic and involved in trade, that was a Muslim village. He said if the people were unethical in the sense of adultery and in the sense of drunkenness, that was a Christian village. He said if they were not, it was a Muslim village. He said that if people had no racial pride, if they felt inferior, that was a Christian village. If they had a sense of pride, that was a Muslim village. Now this is Mr. Edward Blyden, who compared the systems of Africa in his day, and his conclusion was as late as 1890, the Muslim answer to the economic, political, social structure of African villages was the best. We have slipped since that time. We have slipped. Colonialism has played a part. Divide and conquer has played a part. The attempt to brainwash us and control our minds has played a part. But I am convinced that we can go back to Timbuktu. We can go back to Liberia and look at the results. We can go back to Mecca and look at the results. And I am suggesting that we experiment with these proven models until someone can show us a better one. Ladies and gentlemen, I have not given any of the remarks that I will give on Wednesday evening. This was specially for the business community. On Wednesday, I have a different topic. Christianity, Islam, and communism. Who holds the key for a prosperous South Africa? I have to warn you, if you are timid and weak of heart, do not come. I don't recommend aspirins, but you may need plaster of Paris to put around your heart to keep it from flying away. It will be hot, heated. This is mild. I'm saving. Every time I started to tell you some of the things I was going to say on Wednesday, I held back and said, no, Khalid, don't do that. Don't think that by coming tonight, you do not need to come on Wednesday. This was for business people and professionals. Wednesday is for the masses. I want you to bring the Christians. Why not? We want to talk. This is our country. We must plan together. We're not going to fight. We are intellectuals. Bring the Christians. Bring the Hindus. Bring the Muslims. Bring the communists. Bring all of the tribes. I need them for my biological and collective unconscious. Because I have in me the blood of every tribe in Africa. I am biological Pan-Africanism. I want to on Wednesday tell you about the Africans, about 3 million, who over the years went to Pakistan. Most of them are living in Karachi. I want to tell you about these brothers. It's an amazing story. I may even tell you about the Karanga tribe in Zimbabwe that discovered that they have been Muslims for hundreds of years and they lost the terminology. Wednesday night in the old pedestrian language, this is not lawyer language, you should never repeat this. Wednesday night will be a monster, inshallah. Thank you very much.
The driver of Honda Ballard ND 47841, would you please remove your vehicle? It's causing an obstruction. Now we come to the close of tonight's session. I will call upon Advocate Hafiz Abu Bakr to deliver a vote of thanks.
Brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. As in all vote of thanks, it's always customary to summarize the presentation of the guest first. And I must say, Dr. Khalid, that your panoramic and exquisite presentation covering various continents and summary would have been otherwise difficult to summarize had it not been that it dealt within the parameters of Islam. And such is the beauty of Islam that it can be summarized in 4 points. One, by a verse from the Holy Quran. Two, by a saying of the Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam. Three, by a saying of a great companion of the Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam. And four, by a very exquisite incident. The first one, the Quran summarized this by saying, وَأَلَّيْسَ لِلْإِنسَانِ إِلَّا مَا سَعَى. Man is nothing but what he strives for. And you had dealt with that very beautifully on the concept of labor and effort being the key component to prosperity and success. Second, the saying of our Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam that worship constitutes 10 parts, 9 parts of which is trade, economic power. And thirdly, by the saying of Abu Zar, a great companion of the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, who said, when poverty enters the house, religion leaves from the back door. And lastly, by this example of a man who came to the great Imam Muhammad Baqir, the descendant of the Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, and he complained of poverty. So Imam Muhammad Baqir said to him, would you exchange the use of your hands for 10,000 dirhams? He said, no, certainly not. He said, would you exchange the use of your feet for 10,000 dirhams? He said, no, never. He says, would you exchange the use of your eyes for 10,000 dirhams? He said, never. So he said, would you exchange the use of your brains for 20,000 dirhams? The man said, never. So Imam Muhammad Baqir said to him, I don't understand you. What gratitude do you demonstrate to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when you value yourself in excess of 50,000 dirhams and yet you complain of poverty? So you have put it very beautifully that no man has excuse. If Allah has given him brains, He's given him arms and legs and hands and feet, he has to start from sacrifice and discipline to create for himself a role model in the way the Nabi Muhammad ﷺ had set an example to all of mankind. That's the key component, and you have demonstrated this most exquisitely, and we want to thank you for it. I would also like to thank, on behalf of I.M.A.W.C, to the IPCI for the arrangements to have brought you here, to Mr. Ahmed Didat, to Ibrahim Lockhart, to the Secretariat of I.M.A.W.C, Sister Shaida and Brother Dawood Desai. Also to the organizing committee, to the Manjra family, to the Orient Institute, to all the sisters and all those present. You have heard a lot of speeches and addresses this evening, so I would like to just complete with some housekeeping notes, and that is to make the announcement that Dr. Khalid Al-Mansour will also be addressing a public lecture organized by the Women's Cultural Group at the Truro Hall in Westville at 8 p.m. on Thursday, 18th October. And there's also one final announcement. This is also for an address by our guest speaker, and this is at the Department of Islamic Studies, and the topic is the Palestinian cause and international law. This is on Tuesday, 16th October. The time is 10:45 to 12 noon. And the venue is L18 Tower Block. I'm sure at some stage you might be able to get further details. With these words, may we conclude with a short dua. Al-Fatiha. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم اللهم ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.